So again, just like with all of our circle notes, you're going to learn more about circles than you've ever wanted to know. Sorry. But we'll talk about our warm-up question here, which brings us back to what we talked about yesterday. So we want the measure of dA, and again, if it's only 2 letters, we always go the shorter way. So dA in this case would be this way. They'd have to give us another letter if they want us to go the long way around. And again, you just always assume it's the closest way to get there. So we want the measure of that angle, and this is really similar to what we just did. Yep.
Do arcs on the circle normally travel?
It doesn't have to always travel clockwise, but I bet I do that more often because that's the way I read. You know, like so I probably named it that way, probably unintentionally. So it doesn't necessarily, so he was asking about clockwise, it's more about the shorter distance. It's a good question. So we have some vertical angles here like we did in our warm-up or our homework quiz question, but we also have this right angle here. So hopefully that's enough information for us to figure out what dA is. We just put those two together. So do we get 122 then? Yeah. And I won't always tell you guys something's a diameter like I did in our homework quiz question. If I show the middle of the circle, so if I put a point in the middle of the circle and it goes through that, you can assume it's a diameter. So just a heads up on that, I won't always mention that. We have a whole bunch of rules about chords today. And again, more than you've ever wanted to know, if you ever wanted to know anything at all. So probably unlikely you didn't even know chord was a thing maybe. There's 4 rules here. So these are our 4 circles we have drawn. So I'll kind of write these out and draw some pictures here for you guys. And we'll then apply them all on the back side. So we'll get all our rules down and then apply them. So I'm going to draw 2 chords, and I'm going to try to make them look like they're equal. So trying to make them look like they're the same length. So these 2 chords are supposed to look equal as best you can. Now today I'm going to use the phrasing if and only if. What that means for us, guys, make sure we're focused here. You don't need your calculator right now. You put it down and take notes. I'm going to use the phrasing if and only if. And what I mean by that, if and only if, means that it kind of works both ways. So if one is true and the other one, like so, trying to think of an example. It's kind of almost like I'm repeating myself. So like, trying to think of something that you would use. It's like using a different word for something. So if I'm an American from the USA, maybe, if I'm from the USA, you know, like kind of like something that kind of sounds redundant maybe a little bit. So it means basically it can go either way. So if these 2 chords are equal, that means their arcs are also going to be equal. And again, a lot of times these things seem pretty, maybe a little bit on the obvious side. But the if and only if means if I know one of them, I can know the other one. So I always think of the arrows both going both ways. So congruent arcs, congruent chords. And so I'm going to draw like arrows going both ways. So if I have one, I automatically have the other. So if we're talking about 2 congruent chords, we're going to refer to the congruent arcs as well. Right. Our next rule. Everyone good with that one? Okay. So this next one, you're going to draw a diameter. So like, I'm just going to go straight down through the middle. And I'm going to call that AB. It's hard to put an A up there. So I have AB. And my diameter is going to hit this chord. and it's going to be perpendicular, and it's going to cut it into 2 equal pieces. And I'm going to write some symbols just to not write too many words with this. So if you don't like the symbols, please write the words. So if AB is perpendicular, if you don't need the word, don't write it, it's fine. If AB is perpendicular to CD and AB is going to bisect CD, and remember, bisect means cuts in half. So again, I'm going to kind of write like a little note over here. Then AB is a diameter. So if it's perpendicular and it cuts that little chord in half, then it's going to be a diameter. Now this next one's going to seem almost like the same rule. It's just a slight difference with it. So I'm basically going to draw the same thing again. Now this one's going to tell me AB is a diameter. And again, we're going to have perpendicular. So I'll explain the difference between these two when you write them down. I'm actually going to add one other piece. It's also going to bisect that arc too. So we use these if-then statements. If-then statements, we kind of, like there was a chapter on that in this book, and we kind of skipped over it. I thought it seemed kind of it's a logic chapter, but this is kind of where if I say, if you're on the track team, then you're an athlete. The one implies the other. So you're on the track team, then you're an athlete. That is assumed then in that case. Like, so the first thing is true. The second one can't be not true. Pro can't say no, I'm not really. I'm going to say, yep, he is, because he's on the track team in order to do those things. So what this is saying, so notice the if part of it. So when it says if these things are true, so if this is true, then this is automatically going to have to be true. So this has to happen first, then this can happen. So an if-then statement is saying if that first thing is true, then the second one has to happen. Same thing down here. Now if this one happens, then this one's going to be true. So it's kind of just slight little word changes. Mostly what I'll tell you guys is basically if you see a drawing that has this information, you're going to kind of connect all those different pieces. So watch out for diameter, something being bisected, that perpendicular. So all those little pieces are going to be what you're watching for. All right, we have one more rule. And then, like I said, we're going to do a Kahoot. we'll finish our notes, and then we do have a scrimmage for today. All right, our last one here. So again, I'm going to try to draw two chords that look equal. I try to draw them looking equal just so that you're not, like, that doesn't seem right at all. So AB is equal to CD. And again, I'm going to use that if and only if phrasing. Again, this is the one that goes both ways. I've used this word before. Equidistant just means the same distance. So those two chords are going to be the same length if they're the same distance from the center of the circle. And I drew these little lines in to show you that they're the same distance from the center of the circle. So I wrote that EF is equal to EG. And I also wrote that they're that 90-degree angle. I put that in there because if I'm measuring how far I'm from like an object, like how far am I from the wall right now, I'm not going to measure the distance like diagonally. I'm going to go straight to the wall. So in terms of measuring my distance from the center to this line, I'm always going to go like the perpendicular distance. That's the closest way to get there. Okay? So those are our rules for today. So we'll take our Kahoot break, taking a lot of notes. We'll come back to examples. You probably maybe need a little bit of scratch paper, so if you have some, otherwise feel free to grab a whiteboard. A lot of the questions are